Hey folks, it's February and we are back with our monthly trail camera checklist. And going from January to February, there's really not a whole lot of difference between tactics and strategies. A lot of that stuff is the same. So we really had to sit down and think about what we do as a company, what we do as individuals with our trail cameras, our strategies, and what we're doing in regards to some of the information that we're getting from our trail cameras. And then also think about what you guys should be doing as consumers. So we came up with the four most important action items for February. All right, very first talking point, and one of the things that we think is the most important is running your trail cameras until the end of February or shed season. And a lot of you guys, your season's wrapped up and you've already pulled some of your cameras. That's okay. If you're in that boat, just go back and check out the January checklist and get some of those action items for storing your cameras and updating firmware and those sorts of things. But for all of us who still have our cameras in the field for February, it's super important that we are running those cameras ideally to see when these sheds are, or when these bucks are shedding their antlers. There's two really important things there. One is running your cameras over food to get the kind of maximize the efficiency of those cameras. And then two, not pressuring those cameras to make sure that those bucks are dropping sheds on your property and not someone else's property. There's been some recent content that Higgins has put out, and it's really insightful. I believe it was on his podcast. Don is a big advocate of annual trail camera data. He's written about the same place, same time, same place theory dating back probably 15, 20 years ago. He was probably the first to talk about this, but he's also seeing that same thing with bucks dropping their sheds. So there's some additional information that you can get from running your cameras until shed season, when these bucks are dropping their sheds and exactly kind of what areas they're dropping sheds. Action item number 2 is getting organized. We have this big long dead period where we're post-season or late season. We're not the shed season yet. We're not the turkey season yet. And this is an opportunity for everyone, including us, to get organized with your photos. So what we like to do is take all of your cameras and organize them per buck and per property. So that's where you're going to get started. The next thing you could do to stay organized is kind of go through and mark those daylight activities, those daylight pictures, that daylight movement, and start to look at any type of weather pattern. So look for consistent movement with consistent winds. That could be wind direction, that could be wind speed, and then also look at that movement in regards to temperature, moon phase, all the variables that we talk about as deer hunters. We all try to maximize the odds and put those things in our favor as much as we possibly can. So now's the time to go back and look at the 2020 season and kind of recollect or organize that information. And we're going to do that because on our calendar for the 2021 season, we're going to go in and highlight that 3-day window between all the consistent daylight movement. The third talking point is analyzing our sets. This is something that we do internally, and there's probably a lot of consumers that do it as well, but not a lot of people talking about it. And all we mean by analyzing sets is actually going in, looking at your map, looking at OnX, or looking at your property, the aerial photos, aerial maps, topo maps, whatever you're looking at to identify where all these trail camera sets are, is actually looking to see what those sets produce, how efficient were they, and then look at those, kind of prioritize all the sets that you have on an individual property, and then compare that to what could be or what may be more efficient by digitally scouting. So looking at those areas on your map, maybe you're looking at different terrain features. Maybe you have a camera on a bench and it may be better on a saddle, or maybe it might be better on the top of a drainage. And mark those spots on your map, because when we get into this postseason and you guys are out walking, doing your postseason scouting, those are areas you're going to want to check out to see if maybe that camera that's not being very efficient, maybe it just needs tweaked a little bit, but also maybe it needs completely moved. Maybe it needs to be moved 100 yards away. And taking the time to analyze those sets, comparing them to your maps or your property, your topo maps, your aerial maps, and then kind of confirming that stuff with your postseason scouting can really make your trail camera sets a lot more efficient come fall. The last thing we want to talk about is replenishing your trail camera fleet. Maybe you have some older cameras in there, maybe you have some duds, but it happens to everybody every year. We get into the fall and No matter if you're running Exodus cameras, wild game cameras, Tascos, it doesn't matter. Occasionally you're gonna have a failure. And it's important to kind of pull those out of your inventory fleet and understand how you're using those cameras, what kind of sets you're using them. Are you using them in static areas or using them in dynamic areas? And then basically make a short list of how many cameras you think you need to kind of replenish your fleet for 2021 moving forward. And we put this on the list because right now, February, there's companies releasing new products, and there's also companies trying to kind of get rid of their 2020 inventory, or maybe their 2019 inventory, whatever that looks like. But there's often times where you can catch these products on sale and get them at a discount. In our minds, our advice to consumers would be, do your research on 2021 models. We're kind of post the ATA show or new product releases that happened last month in January or at the end of 2020. So there's a bunch of information out there on new cameras, but our advice would be check out those 2020 cameras where you can have more consumer feedback of guys kind of using them through the entire season. That consumer feedback is probably going to be more accurate than the hyped up press releases or marketing releases that these companies are spitting out for new products. So take the time, go through your inventory fleet, see what needs replenished, see what needs upgraded, and do that research and due diligence and purchasing now. It'll often save you money, and it's going to save you time come fall. So that's a wrap for our February trail camera checklist. If you guys are in a situation where you've already pulled your cameras and you're looking to maybe do a little bit of maintenance and store them away until fall comes, be sure to check this video out right here. And if you're in a situation where you're looking to replenish cameras and you're thinking about doing that with Exodus, check this link out right here. Offers some great information on all of our products.